أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Previously, we were doing verse 39 of Surah Taha, and we continue with the same verse in this lecture too. We were doing the hadith narrated by Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas, known as a hadith Fatun, that is about the trials faced by Musa alayhi salam. We came to the point that finally Pharaoh's wife persuaded him to spare the baby's life. Now the next problem was that who's going to nurse the baby? Many women offered their services, but he would not take milk from anyone. As it says in the Quran, chapter 28, verse 12, we had already barred Musa from accepting any suckling woman. Now Pharaoh's wife then sent Musa alayhi salam with her servant to find any woman whose milk the baby would accept. Now at this very time, Musa alayhi salam's mother sent his sister to find out about the baby. When she saw the servant, she said, I can take you to a family where there is a woman whose milk I hope the child will accept and who will bring him up with great love and affection. The servants got suspicious that maybe she was a close relation of the mother of the child, and Abdullah bin Abbas stopped and said this was the third futun, meaning the third trial. But the girl remained confident, and she convinced them that this plan was to get some material benefits and getting access to Pharaoh's court for the family. Now this explanation satisfied the servants. She ran back home and she brought back her mother. Now Musa alayhi salam greedily accepted her mother's milk. Pharaoh's wife was overjoyed at this information and called Musa's mother to the court and invited her to stay with them permanently. But Musa alayhi salam's mother said that she had another child to take care of, so she will take Musa with him, nurse him, and bring him up with great care and attention. Now Pharaoh's wife had no choice, so she accepted this arrangement, and thus the baby was reunited with his mother. And so Allah's promise to Musa alayhi salam's mother made during her pregnancy came true. What was the promise? That we will unite your child after a brief separation. When Musa alayhi salam grew up into a small child, Pharaoh's wife asked Musa alayhi salam's mother to bring him to the court. She warned all the courtiers that she would keep watching how they treat this child. And she ordained that when he enters, everyone should show due love and respect and give him presents so that little Musa feels important and he feels loved. So as he came, he was showered with gifts and presents, and Pharaoh's wife on her own came up with many expensive presents for the child. Then she took him to Pharaoh, hoping that he too would welcome him with presents and with the same enthusiasm. Pharaoh took the child in his arms, and suddenly the child clutched his beard and made his head bow down. Pharaoh was outraged and ordered death for the child, and Abdullah bin Abbas stopped here and said, this was the fourth trial, the fourth futun for Musa alayhi salam. Then we have read before that how Pharaoh's wife came to the rescue, and 2 trays, one of burning coal and one of jewelry, were brought before Musa alayhi salam, and how by Allah's izn he took coal and put it in his mouth. Now this proved his innocence, and once again his life was spared. Till his manhood he lived a peaceful life. One day he was out on a stroll in the city where he saw 2 men fighting. One was an Egyptian from Pharaoh's court and one was an Israeli. As the Israelis were an enslaved nation, the Egyptian was bullying the Israeli. In extreme anger, Musa alayhi salam hit the Egyptian so hard that he died on the spot. And there wasn't any witness to this murder except the Israeli. Now Musa alayhi salam felt deep remorse and begged Allah for forgiveness for this unintentional murder. Pharaoh's people were looking everywhere for the murderer, but they had no clue. They got no clue. And the next day, when Musa alayhi salam came out, he saw the same Israeli fighting with another Egyptian. When the Israeli saw Musa alayhi salam, he asked for help, and Musa alayhi salam was again full of anger. He told the Egyptian to stop and also scolded the Israeli for being so quarrelsome and picking up fights. On seeing Musa alayhi salam in anger, the Israeli got scared and said, "Oh Musa, will you kill me too as you killed a man yesterday?" Now they parted, but the Egyptian ran and informed people that the murder which took place yesterday was committed by Musa. Pharaoh instantly ordered to kill him, and Abdullah bin Abbas stopped and said that this was the fifth futun, the fifth trial for Musa alayhi salam. And he at once managed to escape, and he fled to Madian. Now, as he approached Madian, he stopped at a well where people drew out water and fed their animals. He noticed two girls. They were standing away from the crowd. There was a huge crowd, and these girls were like protecting themselves, and they were away from the crowd. He asked them why they were standing like that. They said, being unable to get their ways amongst men, and they waited for their they waited for everyone to finish, and if any water is left, they would give it to their goats in the end. Now Musa alayhi salam felt sorry for them, that being why are they being treated like this? And he was physically strong. He pushed forward and watered their goats. Now when the girls returned home, their father was surprised that how did they manage to come home so early than usual. Now the girl's father was also a prophet of Allah. He was Shuaib alayhi salam. He asked one of the girls to bring the man home, which she did. And when Shuaib alayhi salam heard the story of Musa alayhi salam, he said, "Do not fear, you have escaped from the wrongdoing people." Now one of the girls suggested to the father that he should hire this man on wages because he is strong and he is trustworthy. The father inquired that how she got to know about these qualities of his. And the girl replied that he is strong because I witnessed how he forcibly entered and made his way in between the shepherds and drew out the water with such force. And he's trustworthy because when she went to call him on her father's request, then on the way he not even once tried to look at her and had his gaze lowered all the time. Shuaib alayhi salam was satisfied and proposed Musa alayhi salam that if he agreed to work for him for 8 years, then he would give one of his daughter in marriage to him. He also said that he would like if Musa alayhi salam worked for him for a period of further 2 years, but this would not be a condition for his marriage. Musa alayhi salam accepted this offer and rendered service for a whole 10 years. After having completed these 10 years, he sought permission to go to Egypt to meet his mother and sister. And we have studied in the previous lecture how he was called by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Mount of Tur and bestowed prophethood. And he made dua to Allah to bestow this gift to his brother Harun as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Harun alayhi salam through revelation to reach Egypt before Musa alayhi salam. These two brothers went to Pharaoh's court after passing through several stages. They told him that they were messengers of Allah. In this series of dialogue, they invited Pharaoh to the true faith and free Bani Israel from slavery. Then Pharaoh asked to show him some miracle as a proof of prophethood. And Musa alayhi salam showed the miracle of his stick becoming a snake and his illuminated hand. Pharaoh was upset and he consulted his advisors, who assured him that these two were just magicians trying to rob him from power. He should invite all the magicians of the country along with these two men, and the magicians would prevail upon them with their skill. So the show was conducted on a festival on the 10th of Muharram. The magicians threw their sticks first, but when Musa alayhi salam threw his staff, it turned into a huge snake which ate up all other snakes. The magicians at once realized that this was a miracle and brought iman on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After this, several calamities hit Egypt like floods, locusts, lice, frogs, and every time Pharaoh approached Musa alayhi salam to pray to Allah to release them, and if the dua was accepted, he would free Bani Israel. But when the dua was accepted, he would turn back from his promise. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Musa alayhi salam to take Bani Israel out of Egypt. He left Egypt by night, and in the morning, when Pharaoh found out, he chased them with his army. Now initially when Musa alayhi salam reached the river, he forgot that he was supposed to strike the river with his staff and it would open 12 passage for him and his men. And when Pharaoh's army approached near, the Bani Israel cried out, "Surely we are overtaken." And at this critical moment, Musa alayhi salam remembered Allah's promise to him, and he at once struck his stick on the water, and 12 passageways were made in the river. Pharaoh and his army followed them, but when they were in the midstream, the water flowed over the passageway as commanded by Allah, and Pharaoh and his army perished before Musa alayhi salam. The Bani Israel still feared that Pharaoh will come out somewhere and he must have escaped death. Musa alayhi salam then prayed to Allah to reveal his death, and his body was tossed out of the river and everyone witnessed his end. Musa alayhi salam continued with his journey. Then Musa alayhi salam had to go to Mount Tur for 40 days for further commandments from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we all know how these people under the influence of a mushrik nation started worshipping the golden calf made by a man called Samari. Harun alayhi salam tried his level best to stop them, but they did not listen. When Musa alayhi salam came, he was very angry at them, but later his nation repented. Then he led his people to the holy land of Syria. On the way, there was a city of mighty and powerful people, and they refused to enter the city. 2 men from that city came and embraced the faith of Musa alayhi salam and advised that they should proceed because the men of that city are just well built, but they are weak at heart. Musa alayhi salam also tried to convince them, but they refused stubbornly. Musa alayhi salam prayed against them, and they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. However, since Musa alayhi salam was amongst them, Allah favored them with many gifts like food, man, and salwa. Their clothes were never torn or dirty. 12 streams of water gushed out for them. So these were the salient features of the hadith narrated by Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas Raziyallah Ta'ala Anhu, which contains great detail. And I have just given you the gist because we have already studied these incidents in detail earlier. Now, with the salient features in mind, it would be easy to understand the verses. Now, we were on verse 39. Look at the text. Allah commands the mother of Musa alayhi salam after his birth to put him in the box and put it in the river Nile, and commands the river to throw the box on the bank. And then Allah says, I made you the object of love. This means that Musa alayhi salam was an exceptionally beautiful and exceptionally cute baby. That whoever saw him would fall in love with him. And this happens. You see, two babies of the same age, one is just okay, and the other is such that you instantly want to hold him and cuddle him in your arms. By saying this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to convey that this quality in a baby is no one's credit, that the parents start boasting that he looks like me, that's why he's so cute, or the baby when himself grows up starts feeling proud that I was so cute as a baby. Allah finishes all such claims and says that this was purely from me. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the reason why he made Musa alayhi salam like that. Because this became the reason why Pharaoh's wife loved him so much and he grew up where Allah wanted, in Pharaoh's house, as this would give him a better understanding of Pharaoh and his culture. And this was crucially important for the work which he was to be entrusted with in the future. Verse 40, recall when your sister went to them and said, may I tell you of one who can take care of this child? Thus did we return you back to your mother to comfort her eyes, and then she might not grieve again when you killed a man. We saved you from great distress, and we tested you through various trials. You stayed a number of years with the people of Madian. Now you have come here per our pre-estimation, O Musa. Now we have been through all these incidents in the hadith narrated by Abdullah bin Abbas raziyallahu ta'ala anhu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding Musa alayhi salam of his favors. Verse 41, I have molded you for my service. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching Musa alayhi salam that all these unusual incidences that took place in your life were because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was training and preparing you for the most important mission of your life. You were chosen for this task and your grooming was being done. When Musa alayhi salam lived in Madian for 10 years looking after the flock of goats, did he know that prophethood is about to be bestowed on him and he will stand in front of the worst tyrant? No, but Allah knew, and in his own mysterious and wise ways, he molds people whom he chooses to serve his deen. And if you look in the life of any person whom Allah has chosen to serve his deen, you will find strange situations, strange happenings, which are not understood at the time they occur, but later, when you see, they become a perfect sequence. They rather form a perfect sequence of a chain of events which point and lead to this work. And again, the realization of the fact that if Allah has chosen you to serve his deen, this is not your brilliance, this is not your excellence, this is purely and absolutely his rahmah and mercy, that he chose you and then he molded you. Verse 42, you and your brother should go with my signs and do not neglect to mention me. Now they are just about to start with their mission, and the first tip which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them for success in this mission is zikr Allah. Now zikr Allah includes salat, any farz obligation, and it includes frequent tasbih of Allah, that while conducting this mission, do not forget to remember Allah. In fact, on the path of dawah, all the strength that you need comes from zikr Allah. Verse 43, go both of you to Pharaoh, for he has indeed transgressed all bounds. Now what bounds has he transgressed? That he claims that he was God, the one to be worshipped. Verse 44, speak to him in gentle words. Perhaps he may take heed of the reminder of fear or punishment. Now just imagine to whom Allah commands to speak politely. Pharaoh, one of Allah's worst enemies. What image do we have that how should we talk to people who are against Allah? Shout at them, just give it to them? No. Talk to them in a civil way. So the next lesson is politeness. And then Allah has not given up on Pharaoh, that maybe he accepts. If not by polite, convincing words, then maybe by fear of punishment. So after the lesson of politeness, Allah teaches him hope. What do? We give up hope too soon. Oh, he's never going to listen. He is never going to understand. Giving guidance is Allah's job, but conveying properly with the proper etiquettes is the duty entrusted to us. So the message of this verse is that while doing dawah, politeness and hope must not be forgotten. Verse 45, Musa and Harun said, Our Rabb, we fear that he might behave towards us unjustly or may cross all bounds. They both are afraid of Pharaoh because they know what sort of a person he is and to what extent he can go. Verse 46, Allah said, Do not be afraid, I shall be with you both. I hear everything and I see everything. Now this is really beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reassures them like a mother reassures her child that don't feel scared, I'm with you. And when you have any trouble, any problem, just call me. I will listen to you. I am watching over to you. I am behind you. Subhanallah. Verse 47, So go to him and say, Surely we both are Rasuls of your Rabb. Let the children of Israel go with us and oppress them no more. We have brought you a sign from your Rabb. May peace be upon him who follows the guidance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding them step by step. And in this verse and the next, these two verses, the whole format of the dawah is explained. These are verses which are actually a masterpiece of dawah. Firstly, they introduce themselves, that we are messengers of Allah. And the objective behind this introduction is that whatever we are going to tell you is not from our own, but as commanded by our Rabb. Then they put forward their agenda that free Bani Israel, do not oppress them. What was this oppression? That they were an enslaved nation all their life, day in and day out. They served as laborers who built Pharaoh's buildings, and the wage was so less that it was hardly enough to buy them food. Throughout their lives, their only struggle was to earn food enough for survival. Whereas before the Muslim Ummah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has entrusted the Bani Israel with the mission of conveying Allah's deen. With these circumstances, they could hardly know or connect to Allah, let alone conveying His deen. So they had to be liberated to fulfill the cause for which they were sent. Then they showed Pharaoh their two miracles. And then the good news that whoever follows the path of this guidance will enter peace. That is showing them the benefits of following this path. Verse 48, Indeed, it has been revealed to us that the scourge will fall on those who deny this fact and turn away. In this verse, we see the warning of punishment for those who deny the truth. Now, these principles of dawah were not just for Musa alayhi salam, but every da'i of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we make a small summary of this format, it would be, before the actual action starts, we were advised Allah's zikr, softness of speech and hope. And when the action starts, then the format is number one, introduction of yourself, that you are conveying Allah's word and nothing from your own opinion. Actually, this belief is a great relief for the da'i, that what I am propagating is not my word, it is Allah's word. And if someone accepts, Alhamdulillah, and in case someone doesn't, then he has done no harm to you but himself. And number 2, explain your agenda, that what is the purpose of your tabligh. And this purpose is to connect people to Allah. Your purpose is not self-projection or that people should join a certain group or jamaat to raise funds. No, it's connecting people to Allah. Number 3, show proofs. These proofs should be from the Quran and ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number 4, emphasizing the positive points, the good rewards of following the straight path. And number 5, the warning of punishment for not following the straight path. So this is dawah in a nutshell, explained categorically and clearly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. And from the next verse, that is verse 49, the question answer session starts. Musa alayhi salam tackled Pharaoh with so much wisdom and intelligence. His attitude does not show that he wants to offend someone. Sometimes it happens that when you go somewhere for dawah, people start asking irrelevant questions, and the intention behind it is to create a fitna. What is the fitna? That the people should turn against that person. People who ask such questions, their intention is not to learn, but just to test the other person. For example, which school of thought, which fiqh do you belong to? The solution to this problem is that number 1, initially limit the questions to the related subject only. And number 2, where you feel or sense that this question is to raise a fitna, then avoid answering the question. And this has to be done in a very subtle way. Don't say or taunt that I know you want to raise a fitna and I won't let you. Now just act naive and dismiss it in a casual way. Now look at the words of the verse. Verse 49. When Musa and Harun went to Pharaoh and delivered this message, he said, well, who is your Rabb, O Musa? Now, does Pharaoh not know who is Musa's Rabb? No, he does know in his heart of hearts, but he was too arrogant to admit. His intention was that because he had propagated all around Egypt that I am your Rabb, and because of this, his statues were planted in every nook and corner of the country for worship. His intention was that on hearing the answer, the courtiers would be outraged and react on Musa. Verse 50, Musa replied, our Rabb is he who has given a distinctive form to all creatures and then rightly guided them. A beautiful, intelligent answer, he means that right from an atom to the whole universe and every creature that exists in between is designed and shaped by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not only that, but this design or shape fits the purpose of his creation. Bring to your mind any creation of Allah, its shape, its purpose, both are in complete harmony. For example, look at the sun, the stars, the birds, the insects, the sea animals, our own bodies. Just reflect on its one part. For example, suppose if we did not have fingers, how could we carry on with our jobs in life? And then what else? That he guided every creature. For example, a fish starts swimming as soon as it is born. Who taught them to swim? Who taught the bird to fly and the insect to crawl? Meaning that Allah is not only your Khaliq, but your Hadi as well. Why is Musa alayhi salam exclusively mentioning these qualities of Allah? To make Pharaoh realize that the Rabb who has fashioned you, designed you, has also taken the responsibility to provide for your guidance. That is why we have been sent to you by Allah. If this was not the case, then human beings would have been also like animals, eating, drinking, sleeping, reproducing, and that's all. Man has to rise far above that. That is why guidance is sent to him through the prophets. Wa akhiru dawana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.